It's the year 1812. A Swiss adventurer, traveling in disguise across the Arabian desert, loses his way and slips into a tight passage between towering cliffs. This explorer, Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, walks between the rock walls for about 1.5 kilometers until the gorge suddenly opens, and there, before him stands a splendid facade carved straight into a limestone mountain. Who had created this ancient monument in a desolate valley of southern Jordan? And why? Rising 127 feet high, it wasn't built stone by stone. It was sculpted from the mountain itself. Today, in Arabic, it's called Al-Khazna, the treasury, the place where riches are kept. Majestic columns rise from the base of the cliff, crowned with exquisitely carved designs. A grand doorway leads into a chamber, but inside, there is no ornamentation, only the raw, natural beauty of the stone. Astonished, the adventurer presses deeper into the rocks, sensing he might be close to a long-lost city. Farther on, he finds a theater with seating for roughly 6,000 people, also hewn from living rock. A pathway leads toward an immense temple-like complex. Scattered ruins hint that a city once flourished here. Even high atop the cliffs, he spots additional monuments. Burckhardt had stumbled onto the remains of a city of great historical weight. This 2,000-year-old place is known today as Petra. But how did its people survive in such an arid desert without reliable water? Why did they carve their monuments into the cliffs? What role did this lonely city play? And, most importantly, why was it ultimately abandoned? Welcome back to Secret Post. When the Swiss explorer saw all this, it reminded him of a tale about a desert tribe. He had heard of a people in the Arabian sands who traded silk and spices between China, India, Egypt, and Rome, and who hid their wealth by cutting secret caches high in the cliffs. In Greek and Roman sources, they are called the Nabateans, famed 2 millennia ago as nomads living in tents. But how did tent dwellers create a city as magnificent as Petra? After Burckhardt's revelation, Petra drew global attention. Archaeologists and historians converged to unravel the site's mysteries. A 127-foot-tall facade carved directly into rock is no ordinary achievement. Surely workers must have used temporary scaffolding, like the wooden frames you still see around modern construction. Yet on the treasury and across Petra's other monuments, there are no clear marks or remains that explain how such work was carried out. After extensive study and experimental archaeology, researchers discovered an unfinished monument within Petra, and it seemed to hold the key. Only the upper section had been carved. The lower limestone remained uncut. This points to a top-down building method. For the treasury, the carvers first climbed the cliff and cut a horizontal shaft into the limestone. Standing within that ledge, they sculpted the columns and intricate decor, then gradually worked downward. By the time the upper half was done, rubble had piled below into a sloping ramp, allowing them to finish the lower portion more easily. This top-down technique is virtually unknown at other ancient sites. Clues to it emerged when researchers in the United States carved a Petra-like facade as an experiment. The Nabateans left very little writing at Petra, only a couple of spots. Bare inscriptions in Aramaic, a language used in the Middle East around the time of Jesus. One inscription declares a tomb to be profoundly sacred. Nothing within may be altered or removed. Yet the chamber beyond it contained nothing but a few shelves. From their size, scholars infer these shelves were for the dead. In other words, it was a burial chamber. Over 800 such rock-cut chambers have been documented at Petra. Early on, some suspected Petra might have been primarily a necropolis. Later, however, evidence emerged of a bustling living community as well. By estimating the size of the residential zone, scholars propose a wide range for Petra's population, anywhere from around 20,000 down to as few as 300 people. But even a settlement of 300 in a barren desert. Where did the water come from? A clue surfaces at the so-called Great Temple, where holes in the floor suggest water once flowed beneath. When experts scanned the area using ground-penetrating radar, GPR, they made a crucial discovery. GPR sends radio waves into the ground. The signals bounce back at different speeds, depending on what they hit, slower through soil, faster across empty voids. By analyzing those return times, you can detect underground spaces. Beneath the temple floor was a network of channels. Like plumbing laid before a floor is Finished. Strong evidence of a subterranean water system in Petra. But then, where did the water itself come from? In one of the driest regions on Earth? One source, still used by locals, is a natural spring called Ain Musa. It flows from underground, but it lies about 8 kilometers from Petra. So how did the Nabateans bring water across those 8 kilometers through rocky passes? The narrow gorge leading to the treasury offers a hint. You can see traces of ancient pipelines along the cliff faces. The lines were assembled from many small sections joined together. Normally, water flowing through such segmented pipes would leak. If water was so precious, why would they allow wastage? As water moves through a pipe, air pockets can form, creating internal pressure that slows the flow and pushes against the walls, especially at joints, leading to leakage. Hydro engineers ran experiments and found that setting the line at about a 4-degree slope prevents significant air pocket formation, keeps the flow smooth, and reduces leaks. Measurements at Petra show those ancient pipelines were inclined at an astonishingly precise 4 degrees. In other words, 2,000 years ago, the Nabateans were applying a principle we only formally described much later. Clearly, they were masters of hydraulic engineering. Petra's water did not come only from Ain Musa. The city also captured flash floods cascading down from the mountains. Even today, such floods here can be deadly. To safeguard the city, the Nabateans built a series of ancient dams at key locations. Researchers have identified about 5 of these dams, some with walls that have survived nearly 2,000 years. The dams both stored water and shielded Petra from destructive flooding. So we now know the Nabateans traded between China, India, Egypt, and Rome, that their rock-cut craftsmanship is unparalleled, and that they engineered water in a harsh desert. Yet the central mystery remains. Why did Petra become deserted? Why were 3,000 residents forced to abandon their home? Ancient records note a cataclysmic earthquake in the year 363. Across Petra lie ruins that bear the unmistakable imprint of seismic destruction. The quake likely toppled major structures and shattered the dams. Then the very water that had sustained the city turned on it. Flash floods swept through, and the hard-won infrastructure the Nabateans had built over centuries collapsed into rubble. With the water system gone, traders shifted routes, and the inhabitants slowly drifted away to other towns. Petra was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1985, and if you've seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the Temple of the Holy Grail shown in the film is, in reality, Petra's Al-Khazne. We hope you'll give this secret post video lots of likes and shares. Thank you for your warm, encouraging comments. See you in the next spectacular video.